You found some statistical potential anomaly pattern that you want to share?
I think I did. And I'll preface this, too, by saying that maybe it's too small a sample size. I know I kind of kidded with Bull. A lot of times when I make a stat, he'll say, but it's too early. We don't know. And he's right. Obviously, you want more games to make some sort of overarching statement. But we have asked on this show for really 2 years, the whole time we've been on, what does Kevin Stefanski have over the Bengals? How is he consistently beating a really good football team? He's 6-1 against Cincinnati. And many of those games have been 2-score games. Some of them have been 3-score games. It's really been impressive what he has done against the Cincinnati Bengals. 6 wins, 1 loss. Against everybody else in the NFL, he is 3 games under 500. But what I wanted to focus in on was just the divisional games. Baltimore and Pittsburgh are the bullies of the division. Do we agree? Mm-hmm. They're the mean, physical, hard-hitting teams. Cincinnati is the finesse team in the division. Against the... I just think they are both.
The Bengals defensively, I don't think of them as finesse, but...
No, but I don't think of them as beating us up. I don't think of them as having an attitude. When I think of Baltimore and Pittsburgh, I think this. I think exactly what we saw Monday night. They're going to try to lay you out. They are hitting you with a purpose, not just to end the play.
Yeah.
They want to take their pound of flesh. Against Baltimore and Pittsburgh, Kevin Stefanski is 4-9. And we
5-9. 5-9.
No, I didn't give him the playoff win. And he's got a 6-9 combined.
That's what the Titans.
Yeah,
I played this week.
Yeah, I didn't throw for my numbers. I just went in the division. Yeah. It's teams we see on a regular basis. We know all of them well. They know us. Mm-hmm. I just think that oftentimes you're right. Numbers are so close, or there's not that big. We don't have a large sample size. This is 3+ years of games in the division, and the team that has been the best team in the division is 6-1. And I would consider them more the thoroughbred finesse team. And the teams that are just beat you up and leave you black and blue were 4-9 against those teams. And we always say that coaches take their personality and it just trickles down to the players, and that's how they play. And I think in this case there's something to that, Bull. I don't know how else to answer it.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't do well when other teams take the fight to us.
I want to know more of the offensive because I don't like defensively. You're right, especially Pittsburgh. They're very physical defensively. They've always been. I don't know that Baltimore is as much now as they were in past years. I don't think of the Steelers as a tough team offensively, though, physically. Like in terms of the Browns fighting.
No, but they're defense. Also, I think you'd agree with this, they're also not a finesse team. And Bull, to be completely honest with you, I am looking at this more on I think defense is what sets the attitude and the tone.
Okay.
So, I mean, when you're on offense, the idea is to score points. It's hard to bully other teams into the end zone because that would mean you're just doing what Atlanta did to us last year, where they just, every single play, they're taking it to us.
Yeah.
Typically on offense, the goal is to score points, and being a bully on offense, I think that you set the tone for a game with that big hit, that lays out the other team's quarterback and it takes them a minute to get up. I think that our defense, although very good this year, I think this year our defense is closer to Pittsburgh and Baltimore than it's been any other time under Kevin Stefanski.
I think the Browns have a much better defense than Baltimore.
I do too.
Yeah.
And so what I'm anxious to see is how we play out against Baltimore and Pittsburgh now that our defense has got dog in it. Because the first 3 years of Stefanski, I kept scratching my head saying, where's the dog?
Yeah.
Who's the dog? Now I think the dog is Jim Schwartz. And I hope that all of the defensive players take on his personality like they've done in Baltimore for years. I know it was under Wink, but I still think that the guy driving that bus is Harbaugh, and that's the way he wants to play football.
And yet the Bengals, during that same time, have a good record against both the Steelers and the Ravens.
How do you figure it?
Yeah, it's weird.
I think Zadarius Smith and Dalvin Tomlinson have that dog.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Grant Delpit might be one of those guys.
He's becoming one.
He's playing much, much, much better.
Do you buy those numbers? 4-9, 6-1. I mean, I'm just scratching my head, Jay, trying to figure out, what is it?
Yeah, I do think there's a little bit something to the physicality of the style that Baltimore and Pittsburgh play. I also think, when the argument we're having earlier about pull his numbers out against Cincinnati out of the equation, listen, he's a 500 coach, period. With Cincinnati, without Cincinnati.
Yes.
A couple games over 500, a couple games under 500. You're still a 500 coach.
Yeah.
And so I think we make a little bit too much of that if you say pull the Bengals out and then look at his record. Well, it's pretty much the same as what it is with Cincinnati. It's 500. He had one really good year. He's had a couple of not so good
however, yes, without it, he's a couple over. With it, he's a couple under. Mm-hmm. But he's 5 games over 500 against one team with a 7-game body of work.
Yeah, it's just I have no explanation for it, and I've yet to find anyone that has one either.
And these games, for the most part, against Cincinnati haven't been close.
Yeah.
Halloween last year, week 1 this year.
Yeah.
Go back a couple of years ago, we'd been 41-18 or something.
I think there's 4 games that fit the category you're talking about, because the first 2 wins by Stefanski, the Bengals were bad. That was Burrow's rookie year.
Yes.
They were still terrible.
Yeah.
And then one of the wins in 21.
They didn't play the starters at the end of the year.
But there's been 4 games where the Bengals were a good team with all their, or most of their players, certainly Burrow, and the Browns were 3-1 in those games.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's impressive. Why? I mean, is it the physicalness of the defense against Pittsburgh or Baltimore? Is it that Pittsburgh and Baltimore are much better coached than both Cincinnati and Cleveland? But, and some of it's just matchups, right? Like Denzel Ward, for whatever reason, and Myles Garrett play their best football against the Bengals. They don't play as well. They haven't played as well consistently against Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Is there a specific reason? You just said, Jason, nobody's been able to give you a specific reason. No, you talk to the guys with the Browns, they can't tell you why they've owned that series?
Nobody, if they do know, they're keeping it to themselves.
Yeah.
But nobody.
Why is Patrick Mahomes 1-3 against the Bengals?
It's a great question.
And beats everybody and never loses to anybody else.
It's the same thing's going on for them, and I don't know. It's just, I know sometimes a team just has another team's number, and maybe that's all this is. But I do think that we see a different Cleveland Brown team when they're playing Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I mean, the 4-9 bears that out. Yes, he is a 500 coach, but when you look at his record against those teams, he's 5 games under in just 13 games. Yeah. That's
bad.
They've owned Kevin Stefanski, and that's got to turn around.
Well, they've
owned
the entire franchise for 25 years.
They have.
It's not just Kevin. It's the fact that those are 2 really good. I mean, they're 2 of the jewels of the NFL. With 2 of the best head coaches, as far as I'm concerned, leading them. Like Tomlin and Harbaugh is we talk about. There's only a handful of coaches that really have an impact in our elite coaches.
Aren't they the most tenured coaches at their except for Belichick?
Yeah. I mean, I would put those.
Andy Reid. Reid is.
I know people.
No, but Reid.
Yeah, it switched.
People are down on Tomlin a little bit, but I'm not. I still think he's an elite head coach.
I do too.
I'd put him in that category.
I do too.
So that's. I mean, the Browns are fighting an uphill battle. Just from the start, when you have 2 of the premier franchises in the NFL historically over the last 25 years, now you've got the Bengals with Burrow in there,
who are a yardstick team over the last 3 years.
Absolutely, and better than those other 2.
It's nuts.
So,
but it's a big if. But if the Browns sweep the Ravens this year, they will be 500 against the Ravens.
You know what they say about if.
Yeah, well, if his butts.
But again,
nuts.
And I know they didn't, but if Jed makes that block on Highsmith and they win that game, the tenor of today in this entire week is totally different.
Win one for Chubb. Let's get it done. I hope they play with that attitude.
The reason I bring that up is because I think that Mike Vrabel is a lot more Baltimore and Pittsburgh than he is Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And so that's a similar matchup that we're going to see. Now, he's 1-0 against Vrabel head-to-head. I think they won 40.
It was in 2020.
That was an impressive win.
That was a really good win.
That was an impressive win.
41-35, and that was when Baker was here in 2020?
2020, correct.
Okay.
It was a late season game, I think.
So we'll see. It was a big game. It was a big game for their playoff push.
The Titans were good that year.
Yeah,
they were.
They were legitimately
good. So I like that.
In fact, I think the Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC before the Bengals beat them in the second round, I believe, in 21.
You might be right.
I think so. But in terms of their offense, Tennessee is more aligned with Baltimore, not Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not a run-first team.
Well, they haven't been because right now they're scratching their head saying, who's our runner?
Yeah. I mean, last year Pittsburgh was middle of the pack in terms of percentage of running plays. This year they're 31st in percentage of running plays.
Well, they were down big in the
I hear.
entire
That's why this year
week
you take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But even last year they were middle of the pack, whereas the Titans and Ravens are top 5.
They run the ball.
In terms of percentage of run plays with Atlanta and
But again, I'm
Chicago.
talking more about the attitude and style of the defense.
Sure.
And Vrabel is definitely in the Pittsburgh-Baltimore camp.
He
there.
is, but I don't think the Titans defense hasn't been as good the last couple of years as, we think Pittsburgh and Baltimore are now, or at least Pittsburgh. I don't know. You can't read too much into the numbers in terms of, the statistics this year. Like the ranks this year are stupid. It's 2 games.
Yeah,
those are
means
kind of
nothing.
mean. You can go from 28th to probably 6th in 1 week at this point in the season if you play a really great game. But listen, there's no denying. We're all in agreement here. The Titans are well coached, and that's the reason to some degree they've overachieved some of these years.
Yeah. And Mike Vrabel loves coming back here and playing. Teresa was talking about that yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Being a hometown kid, he's 2-0 in Cleveland as a coach. So.
His ties to Ohio and to this area in particular are a lot stronger than most people think.
Oh, yeah.
He is extremely proud of his heritage and his Ohio roots. And, I was surprised that there wasn't some sort of a move to bring him here when they brought Stefanski in. I still think that, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but if they move on from Kevin, like Mike Vrabel would be my list.
Well, he's not going to – it would be a lateral move. They're not going to be able to –
No, it wouldn't for him because he's coming home.
Yeah, but he could –
I would think that if he moves out of Tennessee, it would either be a premier job or it would be Ohio State or Cleveland.
I actually thought that. I thought he would be an Ohio State guy. He would go to Ohio State.
And I think also that the likelihood that he goes to Ohio State, I think the chances of that happening are probably greater than him coming to Cleveland.
Yeah,
but
that's
if the cards fell the right way, say Ryan Day beats Michigan this year and there's zero talk now of moving on from Ryan Day, and things go sideways here and you're talking about bringing in a new coach, I just think it's a perfect match.
I just don't see how he gets out of Tennessee to come to Cleveland. But even if Day beats Michigan, we're getting way off track. I still think days are numbered.
Now, to be fair, I don't think Vrabel's only got 1 playoff win also, I think, right? What's his playoff record?
Give me 1 sec.
He's had obviously he's had more success in the regular season than the postseason.
Right, but he's in a much easier division.
But at this point, the last time we hired a coach, not for an interim job, but a head coach that had any previous experience, do you know when that was?
Previous experience as a head coach?
As a head coach.
It was Mangini.
Yeah, it was Mangini. And before that?
No.
What do you mean no?
There was never.
That was it? That. Yeah, Schottenheimer, Bud.
They were all first-timers.
Tigliano.
Yeah.
Everything in this regime, with the exception of Mangini.
No, actually, Hugh Jackson was a second-timer.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
he was.
Hugh Jackson had
1 year in Oakland.
And was that kind of he did the whole year. He was 8-8, I think.
Yeah.
But even when they made that move, I don't know if they called him the interim and said they were going to look at it after the season.
No, he was the head.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was the head coach.
Yeah,
in Oakland.
Vrabel has 2 playoff wins, by the way.
So I just think that part of it is bringing people in that have done this before, and not letting someone cut their first time teeth.
I am a big believer in you learn from your mistakes and you're better the second time around. I do believe that.
But that doesn't work in all cases.
But I just think with experience and being able to take a step back and saying, I did this right, I did that wrong, I like how he did that, I probably could have been better at that. I just think the second time around, you get the label of retread.
Yeah.
But I just think you learn so much going through it for the first time.
Sure.
Yesterday,
but there's plenty of second-time coaches that are doing a terrible job.
Sure, and there's plenty of second-time coaches who are pretty good.
I wouldn't say a terrible job. He's off to 0-2 start.
Josh McDaniels.
There are a lot of them in the Belichick tree that people think there's got to be some genius there. Let's give them another shot.
Right.
New coaches this year are 1-9.
Yeah, but aren't most of them on bad teams?
Well, they're always on bad teams. When are you a new coach on a great team?
It doesn't right. So
doesn't happen.
I don't think that's an indictment on new coaches.
Give me 4-7.
It's too. We can't judge. I'm not going to judge a coach based on 2 weeks.
No,
we got a long way to go. But
they're not doing well.
I said last year, Sean Payton. I never thought he was an elite coach. I thought he had an elite quarterback.
Yeah,
and he bailed as soon as Drew Brees retired. Payton bailed. And now, we'll see. He's got 15 more. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think they're all going to be with Russ Wilson at quarterback either.
I don't know when they can move on from him.
They're stuck they're almost stuck with him like we are with Watson. Not quite as bad, but close.
It's pretty neck and neck.